You've been feeling the draw to something new, to something greater, or just something different for yourself, and you're wondering, if I change, will I lose connections? Will I lose relationships? Now, there is a possibility. You do lose certain connections when you grow. But the good part is, if you craft a community around you that understands growth, is excited about growth, has a growth mindset, then just you changing and leveling up and whatever that means for you is something that they want for you. If that's not your community now, then losing those relationships is actually a good thing. Otherwise, it's going to hold you back. Now, this is not a call to just get rid of all your relationships because you want to change or grow or do something different. But this is real talk that you may lose relationships as you do that. But again, that actually is part of that change and that growth. Because that relationship, if it can't move with you into what you're moving into, then it was never meant for that version of you. That relationship was only meant for the version of you that fit in that previous context, in that previous box, whatever that may be. Hi, I'm Jenny Lee. I'm your favorite coach that moves you from self-abandonment to sovereignty so that you can create the life, the love, and the impact you truly desire. Sometimes connections are meant for specific times and specific phases of our life, and that's okay. That doesn't make those connections or those relationships any less valid or valuable or important. And we can honor them. We can truly, deeply be grateful for the connections that we've had in our life, and still, as we grow and change, we can let them go if that's what needs to happen. The fear of losing these connections is very real. And it comes from the fact that change, especially changes in relationships, are something that we grieve. It brings up grief and sadness. It's not a fun transition, typically. And also the fact that we're wired for belonging and connection. So to lose connections really hits on the part of us that associates loss of community with threat. And especially because our mind is built to seek familiarity. That not only is it just losing a connection that creates a threat, it's that it's connections that are familiar, that are in a familiar context. And so we're changing and growing and we're losing connections. It's like a double whammy for our brain and our nervous system. But know that you can create more ease moving into this if you really become aware of that this can happen, right? Like it'll feel like a threat. It's not going to feel good to lose connections usually. It's part of this process of growth and change. The mind really loves what's familiar. Your nervous system in your mind is built to keep you safe, and safety, according to your nervous system, is patterns that you recognize, familiarity, understanding. When you begin to move out of that, you're triggering, even if it's towards something better than where you are now, or what you are doing now, it still triggers as a threat to your system. But when we become aware of that, we can begin to interpret these things differently. Like, okay, if I know that I want to go in this direction, and I have not done that before, I can be aware that it's going to feel like my whole system is saying that, no, don't do that. The fear will come up, overwhelm, procrastination, y'all get more irritable, things like that, right? Like your system's getting really activated as you move in that direction. Everything in you wants to go back to what you're used to. But if I'm aware of that, I'm like, okay, so this activation happens until this new thing becomes my new normal. Right? This is only like this because it's unfamiliar and I'm not used to it. But as I become familiar with it, as I show up to this new direction, then that becomes my new normal. And going backwards would feel like a threat. But staying in the wrong community creates stagnation and repetitive cycles that it seems like you're already over because you're watching this video. They say that we're the sum of the 5 closest people to us. And that doesn't mean that you're not an individual. But that does mean that the closest people to you are heavily influencing you. What the closest people to you look at as normal, as okay, as just how we do things is going to be integrated into your mind and your subconscious, right? So how to recognize when a relationship no longer fits. You will have misaligned values. You may have originally connected because you and these other people or this other person really aligned on a certain thing that you cared about. Now you've changed. or you're going to change. You're in the process of change. Maybe you really valued a certain type of entertainment or like relaxing way that you got together with people, but now you're like, actually, I want to spend my time, I want to go to the gym, I want to work on my business, I want to be thinking about and talking about and practicing new things for me because I want to move into that level. But if you're misaligned on what it is that you care about, which shows up in what you do, what you talk about, how you act or react to things, then that could be an indicator that those relationships don't fit. You can also get a sense too around, are these the type of people that celebrate when you grow and change and evolve? Do they celebrate it, or does it just seem really strange to them? It's funny because it can be a tricky thing to get a sense of whether people can really move into where you're going, because sometimes people can sort of almost overly celebrate because they just can't imagine that someone could go that direction. Like say you've created some level of success in whatever you're doing now. And they're just like, whoa, that's really great. But it's from almost a stance of like, I can't even imagine that as part of my world. Or they're not even positive like that, and they just go straight to criticism. The thing with the people who can't imagine what you're doing as part of their world will eventually become criticism, right? It might be novel at first, it's intriguing, but then it becomes misaligned. It becomes something that just doesn't fit anymore in this previous community. Even just the fact that you're afraid that you might lose this connection can sometimes be an indicator that you know that that direction isn't meant for them. And I want to say this. Your evolution, your choices, your decisions in life are for you. Your journey is yours. We should never be trying to force people into our direction, right? They have their own journey. They get to have their own choices and their own ways of being. And the hard truth is, if people only supported the previous version of you, then they really just supported their own comfort. They weren't actually supporting you as an evolving, autonomous being. They were there for the box that you previously fitted into. They weren't there for you. True community really supports you and your growth and your authenticity and your evolution. So really the steps are a courageous commitment to yourself, which means when I have a vision for where I want to go, when I have desires for new, maybe different things in my life, then I'm committed to my own evolution. Then you can make a courageous invitation. Like, hey, I've committed to this really interesting change, this evolution of myself, this growth path. Is that aligned with you? Now, we can't get attached on whether someone is going to come with us or not. We can extend the invitation, but they get to choose, and we get to respect that, because hopefully that's also part of our growth journey, is that we respect our own decisions, and then we respect other people's decisions too. And then make a courageous decision to take action in that direction. Because at the end of the day, it's you with you. It's not you with a bunch of other people. It's you with you that puts your head on your pillow and decides whether you are proud of what you did for your life. I said you a whole bunch in that sentence. Others are invited on the journey, absolutely, and maybe that's part of their journey. But your foundation is your relationship with yourself. Your self-relationship drives everything. Sovereignty, fulfillment, success, everything. And it's okay to be human and feel sad or grieve when a relationship can't move with you into whatever next version of yourself you're becoming. It's very normal. Allow yourself to feel it. And don't avoid that too, right? Like with all this courageousness that you're involved in as you grow and you change, it can also be that courageous vulnerability with yourself to feel how you feel. Because bottling up inside does no good for you and that journey you're on. Because also, like, if you allow yourself to move the emotion through, it frees up that space inside. If we're just bottling it in, it's taking up space. And when you free up that space, you have more space to invite in community that could really resonate with this new version. I will say the only trap to avoid as you grow and you move into a new direction and you potentially let go of relationships is not to get isolated. Sometimes, if, for example, when we were young, if we sort of developed this understanding that other people really didn't like the authentic version of ourselves, then we never really allowed ourselves to take up the space, truly, honestly, and authentically as ourselves, with our actual needs and our actual wants and our actual desires and our actual boundaries and our actual standards. And so sometimes we can develop this habit of, okay, only when I'm actually alone do I relax. Because when I'm around other people, there's all these like interfering expectations and projections and things that I pick up on, right? So I will say, as you move into that new version of yourself, to do that with courageously seeking community, but you're doing it in a way where you are being honest and you are being authentic. And that does open you up to two things, right? The possibility of being celebrated, received, which is beautiful, and the possibility of being rejected. That's never fun. I have a whole video on rejection and how to navigate that. But when we do that, when we actually show up in honesty and in authenticity, then we can actually be available for community and people and connections that are truly aligned with us. You know, we don't get into a cycle of always having to ditch these relationships to move into the next thing. And, you know, you don't have to keep doing that if you are truly being honest and authentic. And one of the things you could be honest and authentic about is that you are on a growth path. That this version of you that you're presenting to people is not the end all and be all. You know, especially if you got like, you know, 20, 40, 60, 80 more years. Then of course you're not going to be the same person. But there may be some core things about you, right? Like these are certain core values that you have or certain core things about you as a being, which people can connect with, but they can only do that when you're being honest. And when you do that, it allows you to rewire that part of yourself that felt safe only when you were alone. Because you can really hold you now. Like you can hold yourself in the pain of rejection and in the joy of celebration. And also knowing too that either of those things don't have to affect you to the level of how you see yourself, right? Like if someone celebrates me, that's wonderful, but that doesn't then mean, okay, now I'm good because I'm being celebrated. I can choose how I want to see myself, right? The opposite is true. Like if someone rejects me, that doesn't then mean that now I'm bad and they've just revealed to me of my badness, right? So either way, those don't define me. I'm open to receiving these experiences, but I still know that I define who I am and I know who I am, and I center myself in my own self-understanding and self-concept and self-respect, right? And my own self-love. And that is the foundation to receive these experiences. The fear of losing connections is real because it can happen. It is a possibility. But having that courageous commitment to yourself, that your growth and your change, whatever that thing is that's calling you in a certain direction, is so incredibly valuable and matters. That it's okay if there are some people that can't go with you. We can thank them for being a part of our journey. We can let them go. We can open ourselves to the connections and the relationships and the reality of truly being this next version of ourselves and celebrating the joy of that. Like, life is an incredible adventure and journey. There are ups and downs. Sometimes letting go of those relationships feel like a down, but then also stepping into that new version or that new direction can be so incredibly exciting. And I'm excited for you as you take that step. And know that it's scary because you haven't faced it yet. But as you face it and make sometimes these hard decisions, that you really, over time, get such a deep confidence in your own self that you can navigate and move through anything, whether it be loss or gain. And you build this muscle of showing up for yourself. Because the thing is, the most important relationship you ever have is the one you have with yourself, and you can't ever lose that if you are moving in your direction. So I celebrate your courage. You matter. And if you want support, walking this journey, exploring the current relationships you have, looking towards that new direction you would like to move into, you know where to find me. And yeah, I'll be back here. I'm trying to do a video every Friday. I'm flying off again, flying off tomorrow. So yeah, there might be one next week, hopefully. We shall see.